Alright, so in this video I'm going to discuss how projections work in ArcGIS Pro and then also projection on the fly. This is kind of, I think, a very interesting topic because this has an impact on how we view our data and how we use our data. Okay, so here I have a map that is projected into UTM Zone 17 North. So if we click on this map object, we go to Properties, and then Coordinate System, we can see that the projection is NAD 1983, so that's the datum, and then UTM Zone 17 North, that's the projection. I have a base layer loaded in, and then also an operational layer, so these are the counties in West Virginia. So if I click on that object, go to Properties, and then Source, we can see under Spatial Reference that this is also in the same projection, NAD 83, UTM Zone 17 North, so datum and projection. So this layer is being drawn into a map that shares the same projection that it has, so they're both the same. In contrast, in this map, we have these West Virginia county boundaries drawn into a map that is using a different spatial projection. So this map is projected into USA Contiguous Lambert Conformal Conic. However, the layer, or the county layer, is projected into NAD 83 UTM Zone 17 North. So they're in different projections, but the counties actually still draw where they're supposed to in the map space. And the reason why that's the case is that ArcGIS does what's called projection on the fly. So it's able to reproject or change the data in memory or in RAM or on the fly so that it draws in the correct place in the new projection. This is generally fine if you are just doing some overlay or cartographic or some visualization or cartographic design. If you're going to do any spatial analysis, though, it's generally best if all the data layers are in the same projection and that projection is the same as the map projection. Alright, so to understand how ArcGIS works with projections, I'm going to run a simple experiment where we break a projection. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this original map, and I'm going to make a copy of this layer. So I'm going to go to Data, Export Features. Okay, so now I'm going to export this feature. I'm just going to save it to a folder on my machine. So I'm going to call this to break 2. Save. All right, I'm going to run that. Okay, so now I have a copy of the layer. It's exactly the same. There's nothing different. So now what I'm going to do is break that layer. So I'm going to remove it first so I don't have any issues. And I'm going to go to that layer on my local machine. And let's see, it was in the junk folder. And it's to break 2. So this is a shapefile. So it's a vector polygon object. In a shapefile, the projection information is stored inside of the .prj file, so the projection file. So what I'm going to do is delete that. Okay, so now ArcGIS Pro doesn't really know what the projection will be for that layer because the file that has that information is now missing or deleted. Okay, so I'm going to add that layer back in. Let me do a refresh just to make sure it refreshed, and then we'll add that back in. Okay, so 3 things could happen. 1 is it wouldn't draw in at all. It would give you an error. 2 is it would draw, but it would draw in the incorrect location. Or 3, it will draw in the correct location. So remember that this first map is in UTM Zone 17 North, and this layer is actually in UTM Zone 17 North, even though the software doesn't know that because the projection file is missing. So let's hit OK and see what happens. Alright, so as you can see, that layer drew exactly where it was supposed to in the map space. So why did that happen? Well, the reason for that is that the software doesn't know now, because there's no projection file, that this layer is in UTM Zone 17 North. However, the coordinates are actually 17 North, all the vertices that make up the polygons. So it just has to assume that the layer is in the projection of the map. In this case, that actually happens to be true, so it draws in the correct location. So let's look at this in the second map. So we'll add that layer, and let's see. All right, so it didn't draw there, so zoom to the layer. All right, so as you can see, it drew up here in the Arctic, so in the incorrect location. So why did that happen? Well, in this case, this layer is in UTM Zone 17 North, but the software doesn't know that because it doesn't have a projection file associated with the layer. So it assumes that the layer is in the projection of the map, which in this case is a Lambert conformal conic projection. So that's actually incorrect, so it draws in the incorrect or wrong location. So that's basically the reason. So you can't actually fix a projection once it's been broke. So let me go back and do that, and then we'll replicate this and see if it works correctly. So there's a tool called Define Projection. It's in data management, and you can basically this recreates the projection information. So for a shapefile, it recreates the .prj portion of the file. Okay, so we're going to add this to-break layer. Right now it says unknown because it doesn't actually know what the projection is. There's no projection file. And we know that it's actually supposed to be UTM Zone 17 North, NAT 83, so we're going to change it to that. I just grabbed the current map because that's what the projection is in. Okay, so let's hit run, and that should reproduce the file. Did it fairly quickly. So as you see, it's still in the correct location. So that's fine. So let's go to the other map. So let's add that layer back to this map now that it has a projection file. So we do a refresh, make sure it's up to date, and then we'll do to-break 2 again, and add that in. So as you can see, it drew where it was supposed to in the map space. So in short, ArcGIS Pro is able to project this layer that is in a different projection to this map projection because it has the projection information and it can reproject the data on the fly or in memory. So the point of this video was to give you some background on how ArcGIS deals with projections and maps and data layers that are in different projections. So I hope this little experiment was useful in helping you understand that process.